Courage, the fourth principle of recovery. Courage, it's been said, is not the absence of fear, but the mastery of it, or our mastery over it. But how can we be fearful and courageous at the same time? Well, you already do that every day. First, do you struggle with codependency, chemical addiction of any kind? You just want less drama in your life? I think this series is going to be for you. Hello, God bless and welcome. I'm Kevin Haggerty. You're listening to the Godlogic Project. This is the fourth in a 12-part series on the principles of recovery. The fourth principle being the principle of courage. Please consider yourself or anyone you love while you're listening to this message. Please receive this and all Godlogic Project messages in the spirit of love and service that they're offering. I know this series forces us to look into some dark places. Please understand this is merely my opinion on the principle of courage, not by any means a definitive expose on courage, or principles for that matter. I'm just a messenger. Just to introduce myself to you guys, my name's Kevin and I'm an alcoholic. That does not mean that the principles we're going to unpack in this 12-part series apply only to chemical addiction. In fact, in my 30 years experience in the recovery process, as well as years of sponsoring and mentoring folks through the recovery process, come to understand these principles can be applied to any debilitating obsession we struggle with, and that lead us to repeated patterns of brokenness. So that does not necessarily mean the next drink or drug. For you, it could very well mean the next dysfunctional relationship, the next bout with binge eating, the next bout with needing the approval of others, or in essence, being addicted to the approval of others. It seems these all amount to a kind of idolatry, putting someone or something above our relationship with our Creator, deriving our self-worth from all the wrong places. You see, I truly believe we're designed to be in relationship with God, our Genesis 2 relationship. And when we remove God from our hearts, we left a God-shaped hole. Try to fill that hole with alcohol and drugs, sex, status, money, food, social media, even our spouses and our children. But nothing ever fits. It's been my experience, nothing ever will. It's been God we've been lacking the whole time, a loving relationship with God. Stemming from low self-esteem, these types of social addictions can be every bit as hard to stop as our chemical addictions. So courage, derived from the fourth of the 12-step recovery process, which tells us we need to make a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves, can be intimidating. In fact, I would say the most intimidating of all the 12 steps of recovery. Yet, it can be the most important step. Certainly, the principle of courage is critical as we begin the become a better person portion of our recovery. That is to say, principles 4 through 9. More on that as we continue the series. Well, I guess we can't begin to unpack the principle of courage without first examining the idea of fear, where it comes from. Why is it so debilitating sometimes? Should we wait to make a moral inventory until we're without fear? Well, sane people should always feel a healthy fear. Fear, which is a God-given instinct, should be rational and proportionate, but never absent. Someone who believes they're bulletproof and runs uninhibited into a gunfight isn't being courageous, they're being foolish. They're not brave, they're delusional. Paul's second letter to Timothy tells us, "For God gave us a spirit not of fear, but of power and love and self-control." So, it seems, fear was there before we received God's Spirit. It's an instinct. It's logical, then, that the gift of the spirit of power and love and self-control are gifts from God, natural byproducts of a loving relationship with our Creator God. Again, as always, we turn to our relationship with our Creator, not to remove our fear, but to make it rational and proportionate, simply to allow us to help us subdue it. Always, always to the glory of God and never to the glory of ourselves. So the same fear that makes us stop at red lights also keeps us in unhealthy and even dangerous relationships. It drives us to isolate when we feel lonely. It drives an alcoholic and an addict to early graves. Alone, we're driven by 1,000 forms of self-centered fears. In Matthew 19:26, Jesus said, "But with God all things are possible." So, It appears courage is the mastery of fear, and that the absence of fear is insanity. Reference our delusional gunfighter friend. So what now? How do we even start a moral inventory? Well, armed with the principles of honesty and hope and faith, we prayerfully look at our resentments, the who, what, where, and when of our resentments. We list them as they come to us, with no consideration for the most recent or the most painful. Just write them out, all of them, be honest, be searching, be thorough. Make a note of who you resent or resented, what you feel they did to give you that resentment, and how that resentment affected you. Did it affect your sense of status or your ego? How about your financial security? Did it affect a relationship with a family member or friend? That would be your emotional security. Be rational. No need to get upset. They're just facts as far as you're concerned right now. So write them out and be courageous. You're not doing this to hurt them, by the way. You're doing this to help you. I'll give you a quick hint. We're listing resentments, but we're searching for our character defects. Our character defects, not the offenders. This has been called a selfish program, not because we're learning to act selfishly. We already know how to do that. But because we practice all of these principles for ourselves, we are of little use to anyone until we begin to recover. So we're cleaning our side of the street in steps 4 through 9. 10, 11, and 12, we keep it that way. Let's take one step at a time. Start considering a mentor, a sponsor, someone who's been through the process, to be your compass through these principles. It can be someone you meet at church, support group, even a trusted pastor or a priest. Believe me, you can sail from London to New York without a compass, but you may find yourself in Miami first. Why make the journey any harder than it has to be? Use the tools God provides you, His written word, His people. I can tell you from experience, the pain is definitely in the resistance. We're only as sick as our secrets. Please hear me when I say that. You are only as sick as your secrets. Speak your sickness into the light, and tell me if it doesn't begin to feel better. That you don't feel emotionally healthier, spiritually healthier, more energetic, and closer to your Creator than ever before. Draw near to God and He will draw near to you. It's James 4:8. The book of James, by the way, is very important to the recovery process. I encourage you to study it. Study with a pen. Study with a highlighter. But now you may be thinking, I can't do this alone. You'd be right, but you're not alone. In some sense, you're not really even unique. These principles have brought millions back from the gates of insanity and death. It worked for them. It's working for me. It'll work for you. There are churches and support groups all over the country that are filled with people just like you and me. God works through those people. He reaches out to us through them. They're here to help us. For the most part, they have a servant's heart. Believe me, God will replace your heart of stone with a heart of flesh. He's done it for me, and He's done it for millions of others. Simply put, these principles work, and nothing else does. When it comes to working these principles, the Spirit of God will guide you. You just need to step out of the way. God trusts us with the footwork. We need to trust God with the results. Remember, we're just the branches. We bear no fruit at all without being connected to the vine. John was quoting Jesus when he wrote, "Abide in me and I in you. As the branch cannot bear fruit by itself unless it abides in the vine, neither can you unless you abide in me." That's Jesus speaking. And in this case, that's Jesus speaking directly to you. Please don't be afraid to receive that. He's designed you for moments just like these. So don't wait until you're without fear. The absence of fear creates the absence of need for any courage. Use your relationship with God to give you the confidence to face those fears. That is, in the end, what courage really is. Listen, I don't want you to miss the rest of this 12-part series. Next week's principle, the principle of integrity. Please download the Godlogic Project podcast from SoundCloud or iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, or any of the growing list of podcast platforms we're available on. You'll be alerted each time there's new content. Share it with a friend. Email me with any questions or your personal testimony at godlogicproject@gmail.com. Let me know if you'd like to be a guest on the podcast. I hope you'll also subscribe to the Godlogic Project on YouTube. Ring that alert bell while you're there. Visit the Godlogic Project for links to our growing list of social media and podcast platforms that these messages are available on. And if no one's told you they love you today, God loves you. So do I. Receive that. Be blessed. And we'll speak soon. Thank you.